Hi, my name is Emily Tadlock, and I'm running for State Rep Position 1 in the 41st Legislative District. There's a lack of affordable housing in our region, but the best methods for addressing this shortage vary widely. Do we build permanent, government-supported, low-income housing, or do we incentivize and reduce regulations for the private sector to do so? It might be helpful to go back through U.S. history of creating affordable housing and look to New York City. The majority of New York City Housing Authority developments were built between 1945 and 1965. Unlike most cities, New York depended heavily on city and state funds to build its housing. It wasn't until 1949 that the Federal Housing Act was agreed upon, known as the Urban Renewal Program, which would provide federal funds for housing. The 1950s began a period of new public housing developments, now often referred to as the projects. The goal of the Urban Renewal Program was to eliminate what was considered substandard housing and construct new dwellings. These dwellings are managed by New York City Public Housing Authority, and they receive money from both the state and the federal government. Unfortunately, as time passed, the projects often became centers of despair and crime. The people living in these areas remained on public assistance and had little hope. So to solve the problem and provide a better environment, in 1974, Congress created the Section 8 Housing Voucher Program to help families move out of broken urban neighborhoods and move to places where they could live without the constant threat of violence and their kids could attend good schools. But somewhere along the way, Section 8 became indistinguishable from the public housing properties the program was designed to help families escape. Section 8 housing is not the panacea it was hoped to be. Many report long wait lists, up to 10 years for Section 8 housing. Perhaps the shortage of this type of housing is due to the myriad of regulations, restrictions, and bureaucracy imposed on the landlords. There are several drawbacks to being a Section 8 provider, including frequent yearly HUD inspections to ensure health and safety standards, rental price limits, and potentially difficult tenants, since many Section 8 tenants are unable to hold a job for various reasons. And also, there are longer eviction processes. The pool of Section 8 housing has diminished due in part to landlords leaving this market. Compounding the problem here in our region is many landlords left the Seattle market due to bad policies that make it difficult to evict tenants, even if they are causing significant damage to the property and are far behind on rent. Not only is it difficult, timely, and expensive to evict tenants, but there are policies in place that make it difficult for landlords to vet tenants prior to renting. For example, current Seattle law prevents landlords from doing background checks on future tenants. Eviction courts are 2 years behind schedule, and eviction policies in Tacoma prevent evictions of tenants that have school-aged children. Those are just a few of the many hurdles that dissuade landlords from renting their properties, and they leave the market, thereby reducing the supply. Now, landlords have a property interest, pay property taxes, and have an investment that they want to secure. The laws enacted in recent years favor the tenant rather than the landlord, causing landlords to leave the market. Let's make laws more favorable to landlords and bring back a balance to increase housing options and increase the supply of housing. Some future legislation that holds promise is the Tenant Assistance Program, which will help those who fall behind on rent. The predatory rent increase legislation, which goes after bad actors in the market. And the Tenant Safety Act, which streamlines the process to evict residents engaged in dangerous activity. Home ownership provides individuals a chance to build equity and live in a stable environment. Homeowners are more vested in their communities. The low inventory of homes to purchase is often attributed to overregulation and cumbersome and delayed permitting processes. For example, the developer who owns this house behind me has been trying to develop this property into multifamily housing for over 4 years. Public policy, including state laws, permitting rules, and building restrictions, are adding an average of $144,000 to the cost of constructing a median price house in Washington. Until 1990, local communities had the flexibility to manage their own zoning and permitting based on regional needs. But with the passage of the Growth Management Act, much of this local control was taken away, and state-imposed mandates began pushing the prices of housing up. The Master Builders Association has several recommendations for reducing the cost of construction, including raising state Environment Protect Act exemption thresholds, raising the short plat threshold to 9 lots, and allowing local governments to adopt unit lot subdivision codes for townhomes to be developed and sold as individual units called fee simple townhomes. If elected, I will seek to find reasonable solutions to the housing crisis, and they will be avoiding putting an unfair burden on builders and property owners, such as rent control, which does not work and decreases the housing supply. I hope to improve outcomes and incentives for builders, landlords, and tenants, and avoid the creation of another government entity that builds and manages low-income housing, especially in light of the history of low-income housing and its pitfalls. Learn more about me at electemillytadlock.com. My name is Emily Tadlock, and I'm running in the 41st Legislative District, State Rep, Position 1, and I approve this message.